Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of Visioncon Spotlight, your in-depth look at the nerds you love. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the man of the hour. He's the creative director of the critically acclaimed comic Graveyard Slaughter, the master artist, and the master of the amygdala. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Gary Bedell. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad this is pre-recorded because, ladies and gentlemen, you wouldn't have known this. That was the third take of that intro, so I really appreciate you being patient, Gary. But
I know it's all good, man. We're gonna re-record some of my stuff. I can already foresee it, so don't even split it.
Well, Gary, I wanted to start us off. We got a lot to talk about, but I wanted to start us out with how'd we get here? You know, you're one of the greatest artists I personally know, and a little backstory. When we started this show, I knew we were going to touch on artists, cosplayers, business owners, etc. When I thought of artists, I'm not lying to you. The first one I thought was like, I need to get Gary Bedell on this. So,
man,
Gary,
awesome. I'm so glad you asked me too, man. Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you. So, Gary, how'd we get here? I'm sure you've been doing art all your life, but just kind of how did we get from little Gary all the way to a critically acclaimed artist that you are today?
Well, I started out when my mom noticed, my abilities when I was very young. I was like 3 or 4 years old. And it just kind of stuck with it. I was really into stuff like creature fabrication and, that's when I got into comic books at the age of 5 and 6, I think some of the first characters I saw was like, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Howard the Duck, strangely enough. And then I saw like all the, Tales from the Crypt stuff. And so I really got to the horror and superhero stuff, which kind of pushed me towards doing comic work and getting into that. And I did start working professionally until I was like 18 years old. And I actually started out doing a lot of just graphic design. Stuff that had illustration in it, but it was just, little graphic design projects here and there. Stuff you do when you get out of high school, college age type stuff. And so as time passed, I would do a lot of conventions. The first one I did was a Visioncon. I actually went with Mike Decker, who runs the Heroes Alliance now. I hooked up with him, and I set up at his table, and then it was like, oh my gosh, you can actually make money at doing this. Holy shit, And so like I started coming back every year and doing like commission work and networking with people, and then started doing other shows outside of Springfield and beyond that. Just networking that way, and then one thing led to another, which leads to another, and that's kind of how it is, really. I mean, just to this day, it just one job links to another job, links to another job, or you network with this person, or you get this business card over here, and it's really, really neat. Like, making those connections.
Well, just networking is the name of the game, and in most professions, but definitely in your profession, I can see kind of networking being an ideal and like essential part of your job, really.
Yes. Oh yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So going into growing up, obviously you draw this and that, and you said the Crypts, or rather.
Tales from the Crypt?
Tales from the Crypt, yes. Which I assume that's kind of where you got into the horror aspect, but you're definitely known for your horror drawing. So what is it about horror that just kind of really draws you?
I like the psychology of fear. I like tapping into because everyone's fear isn't the same. People have common fears or like a thing that startles them or whatever. Like if you, myself, and like 2 other people were standing in a field and a Sasquatch jumped out, we would all be startled. We'd be like, oh my God, But I like it when you break it down to like why that's scary to that person. And like I love body language too. Like fear is just so fascinating, and like why we think certain things are creepy. I love the uncanny valley. That's one of my favorite things to play off of in horror. And if you're not familiar with that, just to kind of sum it up in a nutshell, the uncanny valley is something that favors us. It looks like us, but it isn't us. That's why a lot of people are scared of like dolls or mannequins or statues, because they look like us. They're very human looking, but they're not human.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, no, I definitely know, because there is a very disconcerting feeling when you see stuff like that, at least in my perspective. Though, speaking of scary things, I did want to talk about graveyard slaughter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who know me know I'm a big baby boy when it comes to scary things. But I recently read Graveyard Slaughter, and oh my God, if you don't already, pick up a copy. You know, the link's going to be in the description below. But just, Gary, tell us a little bit about Graveyard Slaughter, kind of what it means to you, the process, and just, how it kind of came to fruition.
Well, it all started with, I was at Comic Cave, and I had met Kevin Watkins for the first time. This is the first time I met him, and we were talking about his book, Listen to the Thunder, like how I loved that he did a trailer and how he released the book and they did all their, it was just so great. And the art by Adam McLaughlin was just killer. And I was like, I've got to meet these guys. So I met Kevin, and we were talking about his project and everything. And I said, hey, if you ever want to do something like an 80s horror anthology, just get a hold of me. And he's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Let's talk about it. And just right there, we came up with it, and then we just started working on it. And he got Javier Saltares on board. Adam McLaughlin came back, Blackie Shepherd, myself, and then Colin Budd, and then Kevin wrote. And it's just like the perfect team. I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else, but we decided to do it as a Kickstarter campaign. I don't know if you were at LibraryCon, not last year, but the year before. They did the Graveyard Slaughter drink, and we were promoting the book and showed the trailer. To me, it's just like, it's such a big accomplishment, and I love that I finally got to put out a horror anthology. And with people that, not that I just wanted to work with, but people that I'm friends with, people that I care about. That's like the really big winner in it. I don't care if 10 people read it. It's as long as I get to do a cool project like that with people that like I'm friends with and I'm cool with their whatever, that's the bigger thing for me. But I do like it when someone like yourself will check it out who isn't even a fan of horror, and you're like, dude, this is awesome, man.
I'm genuinely not. But I will say, LibraryCon, not the one that you were referring to, but the one last year, I did kind of see that, I saw you palling around with all the other members of Graveyard Slaughter, and I do remember thinking, oh man, that seemed like a fun group of guys. But I went up to your guys' booth, and I hadn't met you yet, but I saw your art, and I was like, I need to get some of that. So I go up there, and then this dude kind of cuts in front of me. Whatever, I'm not gonna art anything in this public library. But he took the art that I was looking at, and I was like, okay, cool. So I go up, and I'm like, hey, can I just get what he had? I'm lying, I'm dying. He got the last one.
Oh my gosh!
No, I mean, it was fine. I mean, is he dead to me? Yes, but that's beside the point. Like, off topic, back to Graveyard Slaughter. It is just how you would describe it. It's like an 80s anthology. Not going to spoil anything for you guys, but I will say one story in particular that, you fully did the art for threw me entirely for a loop. And for those of you who are big fans of Junji Ito, the manga artist, you will love Graveyard Slaughter and Gary Bedell's work. But speaking of your work, I also wanted to talk about a thing that I watched that you did the artwork and the creation for through a YouTube channel that a lot of you probably know called QuipTV. Now, again, I don't do well with horror, but I watched it, Gary. I watched Missanity.
Oh man, it's creepy though.
Oh
it's
God,
creepy.
It's so cool. So how did you, QuipTV, one of the most popular YouTube channels out there, definitely probably the most popular horror YouTube channel out there, kind of how'd you get that gig?
Funny enough, I contacted them, I emailed them, just kind of like for shits and giggles. I was like, man, I like to do stuff for this company, but then I was like, what the worst they can do is say no. So I contacted them. I said, hey, can I, send my portfolio of work? I'd love to share it with you. This is what I'm into. They're like, yeah, we have people just design creatures all the time, and they kind of keep them in this folder or whatnot. So I was like, hey, how about this? How about I take a character that you guys already have, and I redesign it the way I would redesign it. And like, that's a big ass risk right there.
Ooh.
To like approach a company and say, I want to redesign your character and see what you think of it. And I did it, and by some chance it worked. And here I am doing stuff for them. I just finished like my, I think, 6th or 7th project with them just recently.
Oh, link's going to be down in the description if you guys haven't checked out QuipTV. But with all of those, you know, creatures that you've helped create for QuipTV, were there any ones that kind of were your favorite?
Oh, well, definitely Miss Hannity.
Okay.
Because when I created her look, because it's so cool. I love, if you go to my Facebook page, you can see all the preliminaries and stuff that I did for it. But the one that they chose, you know, my big thing is I want someone to see it and be startled by it. Like, it wasn't just one of those things where you study it and say, oh, that's a neat looking thing. It's like when you see it, your brain immediately is just startled by it, and like you have a sense of dread, and that's what I wanted to design it around. You know, kind of playing off that half human, half not human thing, where she looks like a spider, but she kind of looks normal everywhere else.
Yeah. Startle, you know, almost throw my phone across the room. You know, I don't deal well with spiders, but it was really cool looking after the immediate. But I did want to ask you, so a lot of people who watch this show, you know, are, you know, aspiring craftspeople, you know, and a lot of them are artists. So for the folks watching at home, you know, you're obviously a master in your craft. And, you know, I think of no better example than at Virtual Visioncon earlier this year when you did, you know, the drink and draw with us.
That was so fun, by the way.
It was really fun. And guys, if you hadn't seen it, you know, I'm going to put the link up top in the top right corner of the video. But, you know, I figured you guys would, you know, especially you, do better than me. But, oh, my God, you took my lunch money. So for people who are actually aspiring artists, kind of, how do you do what you do, Gary? Are there any tips for people that are looking to get better at art?
Are you talking about just getting better in general, or what?
Just in general. I mean, you know, not all of us can be Gary Bedell. I fully admit that. But just
learn. Better. You gotta learn, man. You just gotta, the thing that you're afraid to do it. Even if it just pisses you off and you feel like you can't get it right, eventually you're gonna get it right. Like, personally, my big hang up is color, and like I don't like my usage of color, so I've been trying to improve that. So I've been kind of looking at other artists and how they use it. Essentially, I try to tackle my weak points, which that, you know, a lot of us are so. As creatives, or I'm just going to use visual artists, for example, we'll get comfortable with doing one thing, you know, one body type, one design, or designing things one way, when we should not do that and have that and come back to it. We should be exploring more and doing the things that we're bad at. That's why when a lot of artists tell me, like, oh my God, hands are so hard and that, you know, they're so difficult. I'm like, yeah, they are. How often do you draw hands? You know, it's like you should be drawing like a page full of hands. If your hands suck, draw them. You know, I don't like drawing vehicles. I've had a couple projects where I'm doing vehicles, and it is hell. But guess what? When it's done, it looks awesome because you take that time to just go in and like do it. You know, you're gonna mess it up like 100 times. Now, imagine doing that for like a project. You still have to have that. You know, have some idea of how you're going to approach that, how you're going to execute that. So yeah, do hard stuff. If you have a weak point or weakness at something, tackle it. Just know you're never going to be a master ever. I'm not even a master because I'm learning new stuff all the time. You know, you're going to do the same thing, practice. I actually need to be drawing a lot more than what I have been lately because I've been doing a lot of design. If you're going to work, I'll take it back to this. If you're in school, high school, college, or whatever, I think it's so important to learn drawing and learning the fundamentals and take graphic design. If you're not in school, learn about graphic design because it's going to help with your illustration, and your illustration is going to help with your graphic design. And I think those are just such important things for artists to know. If you want to, you know, sharpen your skills too, take workshops, ask peers, ask, you know, artists to look at your portfolio and ask them, give you feedback. They're like, I give away free portfolio reviews sometimes. And I'm actually thinking about doing that again, especially with the quarantine and the pandemic and stuff. But I think it's very important for people to ask their peers and go to talks and lectures and stuff. I go to talks and lectures and watch them online. I take, workshops. What's $600? What's $1,000 compared to like this big, huge chunk of information and practice and feedback that you're going to get from somebody that you respect and that you really, really, whose work you really, really like. That's the workshop stuff. But if you're just approaching someone to look at your stuff, say, hey, can you look at my stuff? Give me some feedback. Sure. Okay. Even guys like myself, I do that.
Wow.
So it never is. It's just one of those things. You just got to keep doing it.
Fair. Well, speaking of works that you enjoy and that works you like, are there any inspiration that you've had throughout the years? Anyone that kind of inspired you to pursue artwork, or just kind of people that you're fans of that kind of inspired you?
Well, I think the first people who really inspired me to do this were my grandparents, because they were very, very supportive, and they were very they saw it as a thing that I could do. Sure. So they were definitely supportive of what I did. But after that is more, just different artists across the board. Like everyone knows, like, I love Arthur Adams. I love Adam Duff. I love Craig Mullins. God, there's just so many people I follow on Instagram too. Like Killerzilla, I love him. What's his name? Max something. He does all these really grotesque looking human people, but it's awesome. Gary Gianni, I met him at Spectrum, and that's another thing. Artists, don't just do comic conventions and media conventions. Do shows like Spectrum and art shows, showing galleries too. I don't think that you're just restricted to this box, because you can do other stuff. But sorry to veer away from that. But sorry, where was I there?
Oh, just people you were fans of and maybe
yes.
inspired you.
Jeff Darrow, he's another one that I'm a huge fan of, and it's like across the board too. And there's so many guys that I just have saved in like my folders, and if there's a guy, it's like an artist that does pixel art really well. Like, I'll go to their website, I'll have a folder that says pixel art. Oh, how are they executing that? Let me look at this file. Let me see how they're dissecting this. Let me read their tutorial. Okay, cool. I can take what they learned and apply it to what I'm doing right now. Yeah. That's all it is, man.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of people that are fans of, obviously people watching this video right now, if they aren't already, are going to be big fans of yours. So how do the folks watching at home who don't already, how can they get more Gary Bedell? Where can they go to get more of your work, find out more about you? Plug anything you want. The floor is yours, Gary.
Well, first and foremost, graveyardslaughter.com. You can get the book there. You can get it on Comixology. You can get it, we take PayPal, Stripe. Great book. You should get it. There's the Javier cover. There's the sketch covers you can get done by myself or Adam McLaughlin. And then there's the traditional copy. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's just artist Gary Bedell. And Instagram, same thing. I'm actually more active on Instagram than I am on Facebook. I need to start kind of, cross-posting, but man, I'm so bad. I'm such a grandpa when it comes to social media. I'm like, I'd rather paint and draw stuff and post later. I'm so lazy about it. So I apologize about that in advance, everyone. But I one of the things I really, really am interested in is getting back and doing, I just kind of want to find out what you as the audience want to learn, and if there's anything that I could teach you that you're interested in learning. I think I'm trying to just get feelers for that as well too, and portfolio reviews. I still want to do some of those, especially with the quarantine going on. So you can contact me on my Facebook page or through my Instagram, and I do those via Zoom, or you can send me your work and I can just give you feedback that way via email or just whatnot. Yeah, I mean, that's, if you want to, on my website, You can get my art book, Thawed. It's 115 pages. It's only digital copies now. You can't get physical copies anymore. And it's $5 for a 116 page art book that I put out in 2010. And if you want a copy of my sketchbook one, ONE, you can get it there too. I'm putting out 3 of them. I'm working on 2 right now. But you can get a copy of one, and it has a lot of my unpublished works from my personal sketchbooks that I put in there. And 1, 2, and 3 will all be like that. So yeah, keep an eye out for that too.
All right. Always the man of the people, Gary. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 3 of Visioncon Spotlight. Now, before we wrap things up, Gary, any final thoughts for the folks watching at home?
Guys, support the arts, support independent creators. I know we all love DC, we all love Marvel, we love, all the big brands, and we love our crossovers and everything else, but there are so many creators that are putting out such cool stuff right now. Just explore it. Go on Kickstarter. Go, just check out, just explore. Find these people. There's some really cool independent creators that are putting stuff out, even if they're through Image. Support Image. Kickstarter is like a huge bookstore for me. There's so much cool stuff out there. So support independent creators and artists. It doesn't matter if it's somebody starting out or someone who's putting out books or movies even. Support it.
We all got in this together, guys. Well, make sure you guys check out the links below down in the description, guys. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 3 of Visioncon Spotlight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Zach, but much more importantly, this has been my special guest, Gary Bedell. You guys stay safe out there. Until next time, guys, always remember that life's better when you've got friends to share it with.